Hey friends, it's me, Just Tamika. If you haven't heard about Anchor, it is the easiest way to make a podcast. Let me explain. First off, it's free. Did I say that? Yes, you heard it. It's free. And there are many creation tools that allow you to record and edit your podcast right from your phone or your computer. So there's no need to rush out and buy any unnecessary equipment. Anchor will distribute your podcast for you, so it can be heard on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and many, many others. You can even make money from your podcast with no minimum listenership. Yes, you heard me. No minimum listenership. It's everything you need to make a podcast, all in one place. So go ahead and download the Anchor app today. Go to anchor.fm to get started. And can't wait to hear your first podcast. Hello friends, welcome back to another episode of Just Tamika. Well, I missed the cutoff for April. This would have been April's post. However, we'll call it bonus content for now. I wanted to talk to you a little bit about the importance of self-care. And since April was my birthday month, it's something that has really been on my radar lately. I want to talk specifically today about mindfulness. Now, if you're like me and you hear the word mindfulness, you immediately think of, someone in a yoga pose doing some chanting, om. But that's really not what it is. Really, it's a way to intentionally be present and in the moment. Now, I took a 2-day training called Dynamic Mindfulness and learned so much. What it helped me understand was that, the way that our brain works is that they're very slippery. Rarely are you ever thinking about this moment, this second, this time, right here, right now. But instead, the way that our minds operate we're often thinking about the past, what's happened, those things that we've gone through or survived. Or we're thinking more of the future, what's coming up, what's on the horizon, goals, sometimes other stressors. Goals are good, but they can be a little stressful. But oftentimes we don't afford ourselves the freedom and the luxury to just be in the moment. And if you take a minute right now and just focus, maybe on the sound of my voice, just this second, this minute right here, that by itself is almost just a little bit freeing and relaxing. You give yourself that permission to just be here and to be and to just fall into the relaxation, right? Now, one thing that we've all been doing since the day we've been born is breathing. So it becomes a tool that you always have with you. If you just focus on your breathing right now, just paying attention to the rise and fall of your breath, it's something that you can focus on. And if you're so focused on your breathing that you're experiencing the sensation and you're thinking about what the breath feels like as it enters your nose, is it hot? Is it cool? What does it feel like when it leaves? Are you breathing through your mouth? Is it going back out of your nose? Is it a cool sensation? Is it a warm sensation? When you give that level of detail to anything, you're anchored to that moment. Because if you're that focused on breathing, you're not worried about what happened yesterday or last week or even last year. You're also not worried about what you got to do tomorrow, what's on your agenda, what are these things the hurdles that you have to overcome. You're just here in the moment. And so that's one reason why you often hear people return to your breathing. Another thing about breathing is that in this training, I learned that your mood affects your breathing, which makes sense, right? Think about it. The last time you were a little sad or down, your breathing was more likely heavier and slower. But the last time that you were excited, your breathing was likely lighter and faster and a little bit more shallow. Just like you can impact your breathing by the mood that you're in, the reverse is also true. You can also use your breathing to affect your mood. Let's try a little experiment. So if you were maybe a little tired and you wanted a little bit of energy, forceful bursts of air kind of give that effect. So, gonna sound silly when I say this, but hear me out. You really want to force the air out, and you want to kind of vocalize it. So it'll sound something like there's this great exercise that you can do where you're forcing out the air and you're counting down. So you would count down 5 breaths, then 4 breaths, then 3 breaths. And let's count down from 5 to 4. Let's do that. Try it out with me. We'll be silly together. And I want you to really kind of check in with your body what you feel after that. So we're going to go for 5. Okay, we're going to go for 4. Now let's do 3. All right, 2. 1. Now, I feel a little bit more energized. I feel a little bit more upbeat. Now, say you're maybe a little anxious or feeling a little antsy and you really need to kind of calm yourself and just want to center. The reverse is true. Now you want to slow your breathing. So you want to breathe in, but you want to exhale twice as long. For instance, if you breathe in for a 3 count, you really want to exhale for a 6 count. If you breathe in for a 4 count, you want to exhale for an 8 count. Now, it's easier for me to do the 3 and 6. I just don't think my lung capacity is that great. So if you would indulge me, let's try it. We're going to breathe in for 3. We're going to hold for 2 and exhale for 6. Okay, and we're going to do that twice. So let's breathe in. We're going to hold 1, 2, and breathe out. We're going to do this again. So breathe in for 3, out for 6. In. Hold. 1, 2, out. We're going to do this one more time. And when you breathe out, you want to really relax your muscles. So breathe in. 2, 3. Hold. 1, 2. And out. I want you to really pay attention to your body. You should feel the difference between how you felt a moment ago and how you feel now. If you did it correctly, you likely feel a lot more relaxed, a lot more at peace and at ease. The wonderful thing about this is that you can do this any time of day. You can do it as often as you need to. In fact, what I find helpful is just kind of doing a brief body scan, like, noticing what you're feeling in your body. Sometimes I'll do a deep breath and just relax all my muscles with the exhale. I tend to carry a lot of tension in my shoulders, as a lot of us do, but I don't even realize that it's happening or when it builds up. But I can tell when I breathe in and just relax everything, that, wow, my shoulders feel a lot better. Sometimes you're holding on to things that you really don't know. So another thing that I learned that mindfulness is helpful with is trauma. Anxiety-based disorders, or just anxiety itself. It's a good way to get into a quick body. We oftentimes store energy in our bodies, and I don't mean just like feeling like, oh yeah, I'm feeling restless, I gotta run, but trauma and stress gets stored in our body. And one way to release that is through breathing and through movement. This is why a lot of times you'll see stretching exercises or yoga movements paired with deep breathing, because they go together and they help impact the ability to really kind of get into a relaxed place. So there are some gentle movements that you can do and pair with the breathing that also have great benefits as far as like stretching or just helping you to relax more in general. So one thing that I found interesting is that when you are in a situation and you are really traumatized by it, and especially if you have fear for life or limb, then you don't find a way to expel that energy. So, we have fight, flight, or freeze mode. There are 3 responses to a trauma. You can go into fight mode where you have all this energy and you're ready to you're ready to defend yourself and protect yourself. There's also flight. This is where you need to escape. Your response is to flee. We're just learning, and it's becoming more popular, that there's a third trauma response, and this is freeze. When someone gets into the freeze mode, they aren't moving, they aren't able to do anything. And so that stuck energy a lot of times can manifest as things like post-traumatic stress disorder and other things like that. There are some people who, when faced with a trauma response, freeze up and have the inability to move or to take action. A lot of times people who find themselves in this position have all this stuck energy stored up in their bodies, and that can oftentimes yield a traumatic response. People sometimes develop the full-blown traumatic stress disorder. Others do not. But one thing that's been found helpful is these mindfulness exercises and learning to move that stuck energy through the body. A lot of times people who have traumatic responses, they are trauma born, and they typically are anxiety born. So we know the opposite of feeling anxious and amped up is what? Feeling relaxed. So the quicker you can learn to get into a relaxed body and a relaxed state of being, the easier it is to manage the other symptoms. So it's something that works. It really does. I hope that with our little experiments that we've practiced today, you can kind of see for that for yourself. When I think of mindfulness, we always hear mindfulness practice, right? And I really feel like that's because it's something that works, but you try it for a little bit, and eventually you get distracted, or you do other things, or you don't do it. So it really does have to become a practice. It's a habit that you create, and you practice it every day to be at your best. So this is an excellent way to help take care of yourself and just add to your self-care toolkit. It's something that you always have access to. There are the big and involved movements in breathing. There are also more subtle ways that you could do this. And if you say, Tamika, I don't know, how to do this. It sounds cool, but what if I forget? It's really easy. And there are so many tools out there to help you. You can go on YouTube and look up mindfulness. They have guided imagery where they just kind of walk you through a relaxation technique. You have so many different apps that really do talk you through. A couple of my favorites are the Encounter app, the Encounter Mindfulness. That's a Christian-based app. There's also Abide. There is Soul Space, which I really like. Those last from like 5 to 10 minutes. And it just is a quick way to relax. You can always use things that are natural markers in your day to help remember to do it. So maybe if you work an 8-hour day, you should be taking a half-hour lunch at least, and at least 2 15-minute breaks. Well, those 2 15-minute breaks are great ways to just kind of re-energize, or maybe even if you have a stressful job, great ways to kind of center, release some stress, and to calm down. So set a timer, or maybe you pair it with meals, or maybe it's in the morning, or maybe it's in the evening before you go to bed. It's really good for people who do experience anxiety to do some mindfulness activity before bed so that they can be in their most relaxed. A lot of people with anxiety don't sleep well, or when they do get to sleep, they end up waking up in the middle of the night, or earlier and earlier before day. It's just something that happens. But getting in your most relaxed state increases your odds of being able to stay asleep. I don't think there's a way yet, guys, to practice mindfulness in your sleep, but maybe some of you are more skilled than me. I don't know. But just wanted to share these things that I found helpful, these little nuggets, so that you can also implement it with your own personal style of self-care. Thank you again for joining me, and as always, I'm just Tamika.